Hey everyone, I hope you had a wonderful weekend. We've got 4 different puzzles to have a look at over the last few days from the chess.com daily puzzle and also the American Chess magazine. Let's get straight into it. I hope you enjoyed this video and let's have a look at some of those solutions. Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of my videos. We start with day 26. This is of the daily puzzle. So in this particular position it's black to move and to find the best move in this position. Pause the video now if you haven't already to try and give it a solve. Otherwise we'll go straight into the solution. So with this one, I'll be honest with you, I didn't think it was too bad for a Friday puzzle. Normally Friday it starts to get a little bit harder, a little bit trickier. Maybe starting to go into kind of the realms of sort of grandmaster games. This particular one I didn't think was too bad. I think the challenge of this particular puzzle is to realise that White's got a lot of defensive pieces around his white king. In particular, this bishop here guards this pivotal f2 square, and if this were to be removed in any way, then it should be an easy win. The problem is though, Black needs to also be mindful of White's counterplay as well here. So to give you an example of what could go horribly wrong, and one of the probably the first moves you looked at was maybe taking this bishop. Now the problem with this move is that White can now force a draw. He forces a draw through many different ways, one of which being just taking here on c6. The king comes to f7, let's say, and you can essentially just force a draw. You could try and block the rook, but this actually is now winning for White. I would actually play on here if I was White in this position. You can do maybe something like queen to c6 now. If the king comes to f7, you can then maybe just castle and everything is fine for the White side. So going back here, so that is not the right move. So you've got to be careful of that. But you need to realise you've got your own potential here. You've got this queen and knight combination, which by the way is a brilliant attacking combination. Normally, if you just have these two by themselves, they can easily checkmate the white king. So it should, in theory, be okay. So with that in mind, you then need to start looking through your checks, captures, threats. And had you looked at the checks, captures, threats, you may have just dismissed this move, rook to e5. Well, you just kind of go, well, the bishop takes back. But remember, this bishop here has got a really important job. It's trying to hold on to f2. So actually, this bishop becomes what we call overloaded. So now rook over here with the check. By the way, if you're wondering if the king moves over here, then this would be quite crushing. You've got this idea and winning. Oh no, that doesn't win, sorry. Not that way. This way, sorry, with checkmate. So that doesn't work. Well, everything else doesn't work here. If he now takes with the bishop, which is how the solution continues, then queen takes here check. King runs over, then this is a winning idea. Yeah, I'm going to end up checkmating on c2. So that is a winning idea. And you may also be thinking to yourself, well, okay, what if I just give up my queen? Because I think to myself, well, the queen, you know, for a knight and the rook seems okay. The problem is after the knight takes back, bishop takes back, it looks like black is only up one pawn in this position, but after queen takes in c5, again, this bishop was doing quite a huge role in the defense of White's position. Then you're going to be up 4 points of material and have a winning position. Okay, let's have a look at our next puzzle of the day. Okay, so here we are with puzzle number 27, day number 27. This was a hard one, I'll be honest with you. I actually didn't get this one correct. And I didn't get it correct because I'll say why I didn't get it correct really. I accidentally saw the solution on the YouTube comments for this particular puzzle. So the chess.com, they like to publish the puzzle on YouTube, and I accidentally spotted the solution on there. At first I didn't believe it was the correct answer because I thought it looked so ridiculous, but then when I was trying out some ideas I thought, well, let's have a look at that move. So I'm going to say that I didn't solve this one technically, although I was able to then see what would happen after the move was revealed to me. Now this particular puzzle, what's tricky I think about it is I think probably 99.9% of you have seen that white's got this particularly bad back rank. And it looks as though that it would seem simple to try and do something against this. The problem is that actually this particular tactic is the illusion in this position, and it turns out there's another really important theme to look into. So let me explain why the back row doesn't really work here, or this back row theme doesn't work here. So I was trying to make things like knight to d3 work in this position, and the idea was that if the bishop were to take here, then I would have something like queen to over here to then try and win the game. The problem is, after the bishop comes back, well, actually you didn't even need to come back here. After this you can actually come back to here and white is perfectly sound. So there's no mating idea, although there is then this idea that also looks really good, because you're then potentially threatening to push down this pawn and create some problems for white. So they now might try and open up an escape square, after which is actually totally winning this position after you try and swap off the queens. If the queens then come off, let's just show that very quickly, then the white rook has no way of getting to this black pawn. Now this looks really good, and in rose tinted glasses we can say, yeah, okay, that seems like it's the good move. The problem is white has a really good move in this position, and I couldn't really find a way to refute it. And it's funny now, I'm looking at the engine, there's an even better move than the one that I was looking at that seemed to cause me problem. And that was the move just queen to d2. I couldn't really see a clear way to make any good progress in this position. You know, white's fully defended, he's going to maybe play a move like h3 on the next move, and it's going to probably be about even. Bear in mind, in this position, white's got his own trumps in this position, namely he's got these passed pawns over here. If this pawn drops, then he's got 3 connected passed pawns, which is going to be very difficult to stop. And not only that, white is also up a pawn in this position. So that move kept kind of thwarting a lot of my plans, and I couldn't really see a way to kind of break through in this position. So it turns out the solution is quite stunning, and it's all to actually do with the fact that white has got a loose piece on b6 and also a loose piece on f4. Now, what should we do when there's loose pieces around the board? Well, the thing that you should be trying to do is looking for ways to fork white's pieces here, and that's why the solution is queen to c7. This is a really powerful theme here. Now we're threatening to come to f3 with check, a discovered check to pick up this queen, but we're also threatening this rook, and unfortunately white can't defend against both of these problems. So for example, if let's say he came to, I don't know, c6 for example, in this position, you come here, check, and after this you're going to pick up the queen over there. So that doesn't work. However, white's got some Zwischenzugs here. He's got some forcing moves of his own. Namely, he can try and throw in a check over here. But if the h takes on g6, well, white has got nothing else he can really do in this position. He's going to just have to move his queen out the way, quite sadly, because he's not going to be able to win this. So he might come over to here, for example. But there's a few different ways that black can continue. I think a safe way from the looks of it is maybe queen to g7. Try and force off a swap of queens after something like this. I think black is doing absolutely fine. He's up 3 points in material. He's going to probably use his more superior pieces to try and mop up these pawns very soon. So that was the solution to that one. A really cool checkmating idea there, and as I say, there's nothing else. I say checkmate, it's a very nice tactic, and as I say, there's nothing else that white can really do in this position. He moves his queen away, you're just going to pick up this rook quite comfortably. Okay, let's have a look at some hard puzzles now. Okay, so here we are with day number 19, or puzzle number 19 I should say, for the American Chess Magazine. It's white to move in this one, and to checkmate in only 2 moves. See if you can solve it. Okay, now this one it's stunning. It's stunning, and I'm also very frustrated I got it wrong. And you'll see how I got it wrong. And I think a lot of people probably made the same mistake that I did in the solving of this. But let's have a look at this one. So firstly, it should be mentioned that we have no escape squares for the black king. These knights cover here, also the pawn covers there as well. The rook covers this square, and the king covers those squares. So we just need to find a check, is what we're kind of looking for. And, well, all the checks kind of don't really work in this position. You've got rook check here, but the king can run over there. The knights are doing a good job in guarding this. It's not really worth moving them at all. And if you take this rook, let's say here, well, black has got a number of different pawn moves to stop the access of the queen getting over there. You may also think, oh, what about maybe queen to c4, threatening to come to this square? Well, the problem is as soon as this queen moves away, you can then throw in this check here, which delays the mate by a turn or two. So with that in mind then, it's important to then look at what black can play in this position. So let's just imagine now it's black to move here. Well, you'll notice that if this pawn was to move forward, then it'd be checkmate quite simply with the pawn captures. If this pawn was to move forward, this actually gives access to the queen over here. And, well, if this rook was to move anywhere, let's say here, this time round actually we haven't got a mating idea, but it sounds as though there should be something there. So really the solution then kind of comes around these two pieces, because they're the only ones that aren't really doing anything in this position here. This queen we've already kind of discussed. There's not really any good queen moves here, because as soon as we come off this file, there's going to be a nasty check on a6 here. And we can also discount the king as well. You know, we need to keep him here to guard these two squares. Are quite important. So we're now down to our last piece, which is the pawn. And I thought I felt so smug with this move, considering yesterday that I said the puzzle before, I should say, was some en passant theme, and I just thought, right, queen to d4, it's the move. Got it. Submit my solution. Yes. Next day rolls along. I eagerly await the solution to be published for day 19. I get to the email, I open it up, and it's not the correct move. The correct move is in fact d3. That is the solution to this puzzle. But let's explore d4. So why do I think d4 was so good? Well, this solves a problem here in that if this it guards this particular square, but if this pawn was to come forward, we can now throw a checkmate over here. The problem is, this is a big problem, black can play the move e3. And there's a problem here. This idea does not work anymore because we've blocked our own queen with a pawn. That is why d3 is the move here. Okay, it's really important now. There's no longer this blocking. So let's go through some of the moves. So now after the pawn captures here, checkmate on c4. If we take the other way, we've then got checkmate over on f7. Other moves that are available. Let's say we push a pawn forward. We've got that, and then also we've also discussed if you push here, then you've also got queen takes on c4. What else can black do in this position? Oops, sorry, go back a sec. Well, let's just say he moves a knight in the way. Well, now this pawn is supporting this pawn, so we can now play rook takes here, which is a really nice checkmate. And if you move the rook over here, then this knight is no longer guarding now the f2 square. So queen comes over with checkmate. Very nice. Other moves that don't work, if the knight comes here, you've still got this. And again, if the knight comes over here, you've got that idea again. So that covers all of the knight moves. If the rook just simply takes back the queen, then we've got this, and pretty much everything else that the rook does in this position. He's got no other legal moves. Let's say he comes to c1 or even b1. It's both of these are met with the capture on here. Really nice solution to that one, a really nice puzzle. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you didn't fall for the same trap that I did in this position. Okay, so here we are with puzzle number 20. This is a hard one, I will admit. This is difficult. White to move checkmate in 2 moves. See if you can try and solve this one. Okay, so this particular one, it's really cool. It's really cool, this puzzle, because we've got basically these opposites, diagonals, and all kinds of stuff that makes this particular puzzle quite tricky. We've got lots of cross pins all over the place, so it makes it quite a fascinating puzzle. Now, again, just to remind you, the stipulation is white to move checkmate in 2 moves, to see if you can do that against all defences. First things first, let's look at the escape squares. So this knight covers all of these squares, the rook covers here, this rook covers over here, and the bishop covers these squares. So all of these pieces we can imagine should be probably excluded from this solution because they are all doing some sort of role in this position. Now, this particular puzzle is very tricky. If we start with maybe some of the check squares, if let's say you move this knight over here, the problem with this move is that by playing the knight here, you are then blocking the rook from accessing the square. So the king can then just run over, and you're not going to get a checkmate on the next move here. And more importantly as well, as soon as this king moves off here, this pin is then broken, so it suddenly then frees up this queen to do lots of defending. Other moves that don't quite work here, if bishop was to check here, then, well, you've got bishop takes here, and you're going to get a mate in 12, but it's not going to be in 2. And one of the moves that I was exploring was maybe just bishop to d3 here. The problem with this is now this allows a couple of different ways to defend. I think firstly this seems like the most obvious way to defend with the bishop coming here, and it's going to block any more checks from occurring here, as it creates essentially a barrier for the black king to run. So if let's say you come here with a check, then the king can run up there. And if you try to throw this one in again, you've got that little escape square up there. So it doesn't quite work. So the solution to this one is really interesting. Last one I should mention here. What about rook to g3? We'll talk about this one actually, as this looks also like a tempting threat. The bishop defends here. The problem is now the king can come to this square. Really annoying. And yes, you've got this check here, getting rid of the queen. It's totally winning for white, but the king can now access h3, and it's not going to be checkmate in 2 moves. You're going to get it in 3, but it's not going to be in 2 moves here. So going back to initial position, right, so this particular one has a really nice idea attached to it. And you've got to look at the fact that you've got this pin going on with the queen over here. That is kind of the key to our solution here, and that is the move bishop to f5. Very, very nice move here, as essentially this move creates a zugzwang for black. There's nothing he can do in this position. So first thing we should look at is the pawn moves. Let's just say, for example, this pawn just does nothing. Let's say that does nothing. Well, the problem here is now you've got queen to b4 with check. A really good idea. This queen is blocked off from being able to access these squares, and there's no way you can block that particular mating threat. The same idea happens with the pawn coming here again over on this square, and if you try and block it with this pawn, then what's fascinating about this is now with this pawn coming forward, you can checkmate here on b7. This is just fascinating, so cool, and the bishop guards that particular. It's just so cool. This is such a cool mating idea, this one. So the c3 doesn't work, and then also again that loses 2 to b2. So that covers all the pawn moves. Now let's have a look at the bishop moves, because you might be thinking, well, there's a check here. The problem is, and the difference in this position compared to maybe some of the earlier solutions here, is that this queen is still pinned. So now we can take this bishop for free, and this is then a checkmate. Notice that this takes advantage of this pin on this queen. Other moves that don't work in this position, let's just say c6 maybe, for example. Again, you've got this sort of idea. And if, let's say, the bishop came all the way back to f3, which at least does guard this particular idea, now get ready. This knight can spring into action with knight to e3 checkmate, and this is really cool. So it takes advantage of the fact that the bishop's come here. You've got this bishop now covers that that problem square that was causing a lot of issues with our solutions, and that knight moves now works. And I think it's really cool. You've got the double knights here doing all the heavy lifting, so to speak, and covering all these squares. So really cool. What else can black do in this position? Well, let's now have a look at some of the queen moves. Now, the queen moves are quite restrictive in the sense that we can't take the pin, but let's just say we leave it on the square. Now, really cool, you've got this bishop h3 checkmate. Okay, well, we won't move it there. Let's just say we go to g4 instead, because that blocks that idea. Well, now this queen is no longer being defended by this pawn. We could just take here, checkmate on that square. And finally, okay, let's say we come all the way here, because at least now it's defended. Well, it doesn't matter because the rook also guards that square, so we checkmate on g3 regardless. Really cool checkmate pattern there. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you were able to find some of the solutions. Let me know in the comments below. Like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. As you know, I'm trying to upload at least as frequently as I can. I say daily, but at this point I've maybe missed a couple of days, so I'll try and do as many videos as I can in the future. But as always, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed these puzzles. Take care, bye.